years, and I came across this podcast that I've seen before. I don't actually know the name of it, and there was a guy that was on it, and they were talking about London and kind of wealth. It started off with the guest of the podcast saying that when you're in England and you're rich, you get treated like you're evil, right? And you're talking about how they just assume that you've got this wealth from some privilege, or maybe your dad's rich or whatnot. And back in the day that might have been true, but now it's not. To a certain degree, right? And now I don't know if that's true. I'm not rich, so I don't know if England, London treat people that are rich like evil. But I could definitely see that being the case. Certainly for a bit, maybe not all, but definitely I could see it, right? Then he goes on to say about America, and about when you're in America and you're rich, people want to see how hard you've worked, like you've worked hard for it, let me be more like you, and things like that. And I couldn't disagree more. I really couldn't. He talks about, firstly, hard work. Come on, let's be real here, guys. We know that there are many, many people out there that don't work hard to get money. Sometimes it's right place, right time. Sometimes it's luck. Sometimes it is hard work, but it's not just hard work. There is a lot of people out there, selling feet pics and playing games for their wealth. It's not a hard thing, comparing it to a normal 9 to 5 or a trade. Anyway, then he goes on to talk about I'd want to be more like you when you see a rich person. Now, I don't know where he's at, but there is a lot of people in this world that have a lot of wealth that I would not want to be like. And there is a lot of people that are probably not as rich as the people that we look at. And I go, wow, like I'd love to be more like that person, Like take for instance like Steve Irwin, right? He's not like a mega rich guy. He's passed away, rest in peace. But he had care, he had love, he had heart, That's something I'd love to be like, more like, inspired by him. I was, and he was never some mega rich person, But then you look at a lot of rich people, and I go, some maybe, yeah, some of them I'd like to be more like, not because they're rich though, because of what they've done, And there's a lot of people in this world that are rich that I definitely would not want to be like. I don't think we need to start naming names here. They also talk about the decline in money here, and about them getting taxed to hell as a rich person, right? And then the host goes on to say that he had someone in his portfolio call him up and say, I've just sold 10% of my company for 20 mil, and then they would talk about an escape plan, right? Like they're like avoiding a war or something. I don't know. If someone comes to you and says they've sold 10% of their company for 20 mil, they're good. They're okay. No matter where they go in the world, they'll be okay. They'll survive. This horrific tax. And not to say that rich people should just get taxed crazily. Personally, my views on rich people is that I think there should be some sort of cap we can put in place, right? I think there comes to a point where there should be a bit of a limit, right? How would I do that? I don't know, so I'm going to zip my mouth and throw my key away. But what I do want to talk about is the detachment. Yeah, the detachment from reality. He's saying these guys are these guys are pretty wealthy. I don't know if they're rich, but they're definitely wealthy, right? And they talk as if like they're going bankrupt, as if like they're not going to be able to eat for the next day. And it's like, guys, let's come back to reality here, yeah? What the government is taxing on may not be fair. I don't know, I'm not in your position. But you will be okay, right? And most people in England are doing okay. Yes, we have our problems. We always will, unfortunately, because that's just society. We're always going to have these problems, and we should always strive to fix them 100%. But let's be real with ourselves. England as a whole does pretty well with majority of things, not all, of course, but for the most part, we do pretty alright, right? So when we're trying to fix the problems, let's not make out like everything else is also shit, because it's not, right? When we want to solve a problem that's right here, let's solve it. But yeah, let's not make out that everything is a problem and everything's tragic and everything's real scary and everything's gonna crumble to the floor because we're getting taxed 50% on our 20 mil. It's alright. It's okay. You'll survive. You know, another thing is people talk about what's more important to a business, the employees or the employer, right? And 9 times out of 10, I would say the employer, because it's like this, right? If you got a conveyor belt of making pencils, right? And the employee will argue that if I'm not there, no one's there to put it together, right? And the employee will be like, well, if I wasn't here, the factory wouldn't even be here. None of the resources, the conveyor belt, you'd have nothing, right? So who's bringing more to the table? And in this instance, the employer, because they're risking, right? So they can make all those pens and then no one wants them. Who takes the fall for that? The person that invested the money, right? The person that just has the job, they can go get another job. So in that instance, I'd always say that the employer holds the risk and should get the rewards if it bears fruit. But here's where it really differs. Now, let's say it's £1,000 to open up a factory of pens, right, where you employ people to put pens together. Now, if you are starting out and you have earned 10 grand in a year, right? Let's just say that's the average wage, and you put the 1,000 in to get the resources in the factory, and you pay another 1,000 for the employees that you employ, right? And that doesn't bear fruit, then that person has lost out on a couple grand or whatnot, right? They took the burden, they took the risk, so they should get the reward. But now take the same situation, but the person that is investing in this pencil business has millions. Is it a risk anymore? No, it isn't a risk. And they can do it again and again and again and again and again and never even feel it. I think at that point, it really doesn't matter whether it's their fault or his fault. He gets to do it over and over again with zero risk, because it's not a risk anymore. Back in the day, let's rewind it like 200 years, right? You'd go into a small town and business wouldn't be booming. So when you'd walk in and you'd offer something, they'd be very attentive and they would care for the customers they have, because they know that that's the only few customers they're getting. But nowadays, because it doesn't matter, because they're so rich, people that own these businesses are so rich, yeah? These companies, doesn't matter. They don't care about you as a customer, because they don't need to. They are so astronomically rich that whether you buy something from them or not, they're still sweet. There's no risk involved with just telling you to do one. And I think that is a grand flaw, because what ends up happening is, capitalism talks about how you would compete against one another to try and outdo, try to improve, try to innovate. Yeah, that's great. And that does work. But then when you get to the point where you have like hundreds of people, and let's say they are trying to make the best swimming pool, right? Now, over years and years and years, this one will add a slide, and this one will get a really deep pool, and this one's massive, and they'll build up and they'll build up and they'll build up, and out of these 100 people, some of them start to die off, right? As in, their business goes bankrupt. That isn't good enough. The price is too high, and they start bankrupting. And you go and you go and you go, and then you end up with about 5 people. And the thing is, these 5 people are actually kind of all related. They're family, they're friends of each other, and they really get along. There's no more competition now. What ends up happening is they can all lower their standard and up their rates, And what's going to happen? The customer has only these 5 swimming pools to go to now. They have no choice. They have to go to these if they want to go swim. And that's what's happened in our society now, where it used to be to innovate, but now you've got 5 friends at the top and they're the only people there. And they are happy to lower their standards and bring their rates up. And they know you're going to come and get it because no one else is surviving. And God forbid someone tries to start up a little business. Ain't gonna happen. They're gonna get shut down quick. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.